For 3 quarters, the Dolphins had a Super Bowl contender on the ropes. Miami had a fourth-quarter lead on the Broncos Sunday, and then Peyton Manning did what Peyton Manning does. The 5-time NFL MVP put the Broncos on his shoulders and led Denver to a 39-36 win. Left in his wake are the disappointed Dolphins, a team that has suffered 3 excruciating losses where the defense was handed a lead in the fourth quarter and could not seal the win.
The Dolphins are still in the playoff mix, though. Joe Philbin's team has 5 games to play in December, 3 of them at home, and this 6-5 team, they've got to be able to bring 4 victories home in order to consider themselves playoff contenders.
Do they have what it takes? We're going to talk about that. I'm CBS 12's Matt Lincoln. He's Sentinel Dolphins columnist Omar Kelly. You are depressed Dolphins fans struggling to understand why this great Miami defense cannot close these games. As usual, we'll take your questions on Twitter. All you have to do is ask them using the hashtag XOMAR or send us a video question. And we're also looking for your challenges. We've got our referee here.
Weak whistle again.
I prepared to just use to issue the challenges. Anything said in today's show, if any one of us says something that you'd like to challenge, fire away. Just use the hashtag XOMAR. We've seen what transpired in Denver. It happened 2 previous times this season. Once against the Packers and then against the Lions as well. Why does this Dolphins team have so many issues closing this season? 0-3 in single-digit games.
You know what? This is probably the first game, probably since Kansas City, where I would say Kevin Coyle, the defensive coordinator, has done a poor job. I'm a big fan of Kevin Coyle, have been before he even got here. He's done a great job in terms of mixing up the defenses, throwing something new at opposing coaches, throwing something new at the quarterbacks, playing to a quarterback's weaknesses. Didn't happen against Peyton Manning. And it was a surprise to me. Didn't see much of the speed package. Didn't see much of the 5-2 defense when you were having issues in terms of stopping the run. I just didn't see any kind of, razzmatazz confusion. I wasn't comfortable with all the zone, and I know that Denver does a lot of crossing routes and a lot of pick plays, which basically makes zone the ideal scheme to play, but it's not exactly Miami's best scheme, and especially when you're having struggles stopping the run. I just didn't like the fact that there were so many mismatches. I mean, Demaryius Thomas on Jelani Jenkins twice in the red zone, and I know that they put Demaryius in as a tight end, but come on, you're talking about a 1,000-yard receiver on a linebacker, and he's a good linebacker, but it's a mismatch.
So you're saying more on Coyle than just Peyton being great and the injuries that the defense had?
You know what?
More on Coyle?
I think a lot of it has to do with Peyton being great, and a lot of it has to do when you lost Jamar Taylor, and he's already your 3rd cornerback on the team. You're playing with Lowell Rose and safety Walt Aikens at cornerback. It's not playing to your strengths, but that wasn't the issue that they lost against Denver. If you look at the Dolphins team, when they win the game at the line of scrimmage in terms of being able to run the ball, in terms of being able to stop the run, that's when they're at their best. Against Denver, a poor running team, the Dolphins gave up 201 rushing yards. That's disaster. That is colossally bad, especially for such a proud unit. The defensive line is the strength of the team. My partner, Chris Perkins, always calls them their grown men, and they got punked like little boys.
Well, before the game started or even earlier, at any point this season, I think Dolphins fans would have said, only a 3-point loss at Denver? I'm going to take that.
36 points, too.
Wow.
That's impressive.
But the problem is, now they're 6-5, and the way that they've lost, we've already had to go, okay, well, that wasn't a bad loss against the Packers. And okay, I guess that wasn't a bad loss against the Lions. I don't think Dolphins fans want to say that anymore.
If you're talking about the playoffs, and I'm going to throw playoffs at you, if you're talking about the playoffs, it's not good enough. But what this team has shown you is that they can play with some of the elite teams. Ryan Tannehill has improved significantly. The running game is there. The defense is playing much better, usually, except for the fourth quarter. They are a good team. The problem is, can they beat elite teams? And they have not proven that so far.
All right, let's take our first question. It comes from Josh Stewart. AJ-Stu9 wants to know if the lack of pressure versus Denver was execution or play calling.
I think it was a combination of all those things. I think it was a lot of Peyton Manning. I think it was a lot of the fact that you only had them in maybe 3 difficult 3rd down situations. It had to be both. I mean, poor tackling. I believe there's a stat that they missed 14 tackles against Denver Broncos. But you have to make every week the defense goes into the game with one ideal goal for this team. One goal. from a defensive standpoint, make the opponent one-dimensional. And you went into this game against Peyton Manning with the same goal, make them one-dimensional, make Peyton Manning beat us. Peyton Manning didn't have to beat you. Yes, he threw 4 touchdowns, but the Broncos ran for 201 rushing yards. I can't even tell you the last time the Dolphins allowed 200 rushing yards. That was a disaster to the 3rd-string running back.
Yeah, it wasn't Barry Sanders out there.
No,
it was C.J.
yeah.
Anderson. At Scott Prioletti wants to know, soft pass defense, lack of pass rush, and clutch situation is the team's major flaw. Agree or disagree?
I don't think it's a soft pass rush. I mean, I think there are instances where the Dolphins are able to get pressure on you with 3 rushers. I mean, when they lost on that final play against the Lions, they just rushed 3, and it still forced Matt Stafford out of the pocket. Sometimes in those crucial situations, it's better to have more defenders in the back end covering passes, and a lot of the times against Peyton Manning, good God, they had like 8 defenders back there. It's still Peyton Manning, and he's still able to get the ball into a window if you present that window. That's what elite passers do. I mean, Peyton Manning's bad days are still better than some quarterbacks' best days. So that's a situation that you have to face. So I would say, if I had to put blame on one person, one aspect of the game, I would say defensive coordinator Kevin Coyle didn't do a good enough job mixing it up and throwing things at Peyton Manning. He's Peyton Manning, of course.
I mean, he doesn't get sacked.
But you didn't try. You didn't try. No speed package, no 5-2, no blitzing. You did not try. You have an elite defense, and you did not try.
And your offense put 36 points on the board.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, you are always talking about passer rating, Omar. Finn's tweets has a good question. If Ryan Tannehill's passer rating was over 90 against Denver, how did we lose? I'm really confused.
You know what? 90 has become about the NFL norm this year. And Ryan Tannehill is the 11th highest passer in terms of passer rating. He's got a 93.3 quarterback rating, which by far, to me, exceeds all my expectations for Ryan Tannehill this year.
Well, I mean, what he did in that game, I think,
4 touchdowns.
Exceeds.
I'm not even sure he's had 4 touchdowns in his career. I probably need to look that up. But 3 passing, 1 running, utilizing his legs. They ran for 90 yards in the first half, and a lot of that is Tannehill in terms of the play calling, where he decides to run it or keep it and hand it off. He's doing his job. Unfortunately for this Dolphins team, and it's very difficult for me to say this because I like my spot as the #1 Ryan Tannehill critic in America.
Yeah, okay.
I like, me and WQM's Big O.
Right.
We're right up there. He's not before this 8-game stretch. I would tell you, he's not good enough.
Right.
He is not good enough to get you to the playoffs. He is not good enough to win you a Super Bowl. This 8-game stretch, what we're looking at right now, how he's played, where his rating has been over 100 5 times, this 8-game stretch where he's been impressive and has won and has played big against big quarterbacks, he's good enough. Now it's about everybody else.
Well, and there's just a little bit of that clutch gene. A little bit of that clutch gene in these 3 games. I know we put it on the defense.
Yes.
In each one of these 3 losses.
Offense had
but
opportunities.
all the games, the offense had the opportunity to seal the deal, and they didn't. So I agree with you that Tannehill is putting the stats, putting the numbers, playing really well, and 3.5 quarters well enough to win every single game. Except there's just a little bit of that clutchness that I think we're missing.
You want him to have
just
that
a
killer
little bit.
instinct.
Yeah.
I mean,
we've needed
he
him.
showed you he had it 4 games last year.
Yeah.
Now, flip that to this season. He got you the lead against Kansas City. He got you the lead against Green Bay. He got you the lead against the Lions in the 4th quarter. He got you the lead. What did you do with it?
The lead.
What did you do with it? In my mind, and I hate to sit here and defend Ryan Tannehill or the offense because neither of them have been very good up to this point. 36 points is definitely a step in the right direction.
Yes.
But if you are a defense, you are the strength of the team, you are the ideal, the alpha and omega of that locker room. You say, you do your job, put it on us, and we'll take care of business. Ryan Tannehill is finally doing his job. Yes, it would be ideal if he didn't have so many 3 and outs on those final drives or throw an interception against Denver. But he's doing his job. He gives the defense a lead. They aren't holding it.
36 points. I'm not going to criticize Ryan Tannehill for anything that he did in this Broncos game. Even the late interception. Yeah, it wasn't a great throw, but it wasn't entirely his fault either. But
Jarvis Landry had his hand held in the situation. Refs didn't call it. There were a number of plays against Denver, I got to say, that were kind of a little messed up.
Yeah. Well, but not to dig up these Packers and Lions games, but in both of those two games, the offense did not play great, and in the last 4 minutes, both the offense and the defense had a chance to win the game, and neither one of them did. So I know you like to pile on the defense, but I think in both of those games, you look at the offense and the defense equally not playing.
You know what I'm learning this season? That this is a team game. And, it sounds so simple.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, sounds absolutely so simple. But Buffalo, who lost that game? Special teams.
Yeah.
All this season, protection has been an issue for Brandon Fields, your Pro Bowl punter. Gunners, a major issue for the Dolphins special teams unit in terms of coverage aspect. Defense, you can play great for 3 quarters. You have to play great for 4 quarters. Offense, they're the best second half scoring team in the entire NFL. Problem is, they're one of the worst first half scoring teams in the entire NFL. Everything is a major issue and a component that's a factor to why this team is 6-5. They need to tighten up better. They need to get that finishing gene. They need to put that killer mentality into this team in terms of Cameron Wake needs to give you sacks. Olivier Vernon needs to give you sacks. The linebackers need to give you tighter coverages in the fourth. Quarterbacks, they need to throw more accurate passes in the red zone. Wide receivers and playmakers, they need to make more plays in terms of run. The only player who's contributing run after catch yards is Jarvis Landry. That's not good enough. Running backs, Lamar Miller gets to the second level and has more 20-yard runs than everybody except DeMarco Murray in the NFL. Problem is, he's not breaking the big one, and that's Lamar Miller's game. How do you have more 20-yard runs than everybody in the NFL but don't break the big one? Everybody needs to tighten up. Everybody needs to do better.
All that being said, since week 3, only the Patriots have been a definitively better team than the Dolphins in the AFC. And that's the truth.
I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. I think Kansas City's better. I think.
Yeah, but the Dolphins haven't had as bad of a loss as Kansas City did last Thursday.
Okay, you slip up at home sometimes. Thursday night, division rivalry game. Hey, if the Dolphins slip up a Monday night division rivalry game against the weak Jets, you're not going to.
Then they're in the then I'm starting to dig the dirt on them. We are digging their grave if that happens.
I really think I agree with you. They're right up there. I would say right now the Baltimore Ravens are playing better than the Dolphins. I would say right now the Kansas City Chiefs are playing better than the Dolphins. And I'd probably say that the Pittsburgh Steelers are playing better than the Dolphins.
I actually disagree with all 3 of those.
All right.
Not everything was a disaster against Denver. The offense got into the groove in the red zone. Hey, scoring touchdowns in all 6 of the team's red zone opportunities against the Broncos. Has Bill Lazor's unit finally turned the corner? Is one game enough for us to say that?
I think the play calling was sharp. I think the execution was sharp. Generally, when you make so much of an issue about something, you come up with solutions, and everybody buys into those solutions. Daniel Thomas in the red zone, bringing bigger options, including Deion Jordan in the red zone, Deion Sims out there in the red zone, Rashard Matthews, a bigger receiver in the red zone. It helps. I really do believe that this team can be good offensively. Are they there yet? No. I think there's more meat on the bone from the running game. I think there's more meat on the bone from what Ryan Tannehill can do. I have seen big plays, big throws from Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
I swear to you, I saw them. I know they exist. He just doesn't throw them in the season, in the games, and I'm okay with that. I think that since they've evolved and they've changed his game a little bit and they're playing within the 20-yard frame, I think it's worked for them. I really do. It's improved his accuracy. He's 66% accuracy. He's throwing touchdowns 20-7. 20-8. How can I complain? Would I love more chunk yards? Absolutely. Sure. But I can't complain with a guy who's got a 93.3 quarterback rating.
Our next question comes from Raymond K. Jr. Is Tannehill finally part of the solution in Miami? Are you seeing that he is getting it?
You know what? I have said I wanted to see him play against some of the better defenses. And right now, some of those better defenses were the Lions, the Bills, the Broncos. And he's done well.
Yeah.
How can I complain?
Yeah, right.
I would say this next 3-game stretch where he's up against the Jets, the Ravens, the Patriots, all 3 with defensive coaches that are good at what they do and can look at a quarterback and take away his strengths and force him to beat you in a way that you're uncomfortable. I would say to me, if Ryan Tannehill produces 90-plus ratings in those 3 games, maybe 2 of the 3 games, I would say, okay, he's the answer. Right now, I know he's a good enough starting quarterback in the NFL, but I don't know if he's a good enough starting quarterback that can lead his team to the playoffs.
Well, that's the great part about this is right now we've got a silver plate for him to show if he can do this, because we've got 5 games left. 4 of them the Dolphins will be favored in. 4 of them the Dolphins should win, and if they finish 10-6, they should be in the playoffs. So Ryan Tannehill, you've been great. Yes.
I wouldn't say great.
Maybe great.
I would not
Close
say
to
great.
For Ryan Tannehill,
you've
great.
been above average.
The best we've seen out of Ryan Tannehill.
Above average.
To give us hope that he could be a long-term solution. But to do all these things, he needs to win 4 of these next 5 games to get them in the
Here's
playoffs.
what has me encouraged about him. He's right now heading into Monday night's Jets game. He's produced 5 games where he's had 100 or plus passer rating.
Yeah.
In his previous 2 seasons, he's only produced 4 total. It's peaking in the right direction for him. I've oftentimes compared him to the breakout seasons that Drew Brees and Alex Smith have had when they did finally break out and become upper echelon quarterbacks. And in both of those seasons, those 2 quarterbacks had 8 games over 100 passer rating. And if Ryan Tannehill gets close to that, we might be looking at something worth investing in.
Okay. Dan0933, if Tannehill continues his November play through December, does he receive this huge Andy Dalton-like contract?
Under no circumstances, and I say no circumstances, would I give Ryan Tannehill a $90+ million contract. It's just not consistent enough. You don't know if he's going to turn the corner now. However, saying that, I'm not willing to not pick up his 5th-year option in 2016, which has to be picked up in May of 2015. I think he's played well enough, and if he stays on this trend, if he stays a 90-rated quarterback, I think you have to pick up the 5th-year option, which is going to pay him $15 million in 2006. Fortunately for the Dolphins, that 5th-year option is not guaranteed. So it's guaranteed for everything but injury. So if he all of a sudden is in a slump, then you can cut him,
right?
Or his play regresses, then you can cut him and don't have to eat that $15 million. But I make him play out that 5th-year exception, a 5th-year option. I possibly sit on a tag for him the very next year, and then I'll reevaluate my situation 2 years from now, whether or not he's the guy. But all the while, the whole time, I am making sure I draft a quarterback early, first 3 rounds in next year's draft, just from this standpoint. He needs competition, and young competition that can develop, young competition that shows upside, young competition that can make him feel the pressure. If you look at Drew Brees and Alex Smith when they finally turned the corner, it just so happened to be the years that their teams drafted young quarterbacks in terms of Phillip Rivers and Colin Kaepernick.
Can you waste a 1st-round draft pick on a quarterback who might not play?
If you don't have a quarterback, does anything matter?
No,
Right now, and I could hear your line of thinking. But if you pick up a defensive tackle, if you pick up a tight end, if you pick up another offensive guard, if you pick up another cornerback, does any of that matter if you don't have a quarterback that can take your team to the playoffs?
Of course not. But again, you can get a guy who you know is going to help you, an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, someone who you know is going to help you.
I can get a guy I know is going to help me in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round.
All right.
I can wait and see the Billy Turner investment, or I can wait and see Deion Sims investment. There are a lot of young players. Jamar Taylor is blossoming. You can build with what you have on this roster. I can honestly tell you that outside of a power back and maybe a new center, because I like Mike Pouncey at guard, even though he wants to return to center. Outside of a power back, I don't think there's anything that's on this present Dolphins team that they need outside of better quarterback play.
Okay.
And I'm not scared to waste a 1st-round pick on another quarterback. The San Diego Chargers did it when they had a pretty good quarterback, and how'd that play out? The 49ers drafted a quarterback in the 2nd round, early in the 2nd round when they took Colin Kaepernick, and they had a pretty good quarterback that they just paid $27 million to. I'm not scared.
Okay.
If you don't have a quarterback, what?
No, I'm not gonna disagree. I think it's I do believe that the Dolphins should draft an early round quarterback next year. it's just going to be a hard sell for Fins fans that you're going to draft a guy and say, well, we might not play him, we might play him. It kind of depends.
The Browns are winning. They drafted a quarterback in the first round. He's sitting.
Now
learning.
they have a huge. They don't know what to do. Okay.
Who cares? Look at the situation. And I'm not in favor of drafting quarterback in the first round. If Jameis Winston isn't there in the first round, hey, select something else. Okay. I want Jameis Winston. But there are a lot of good quarterbacks.
And you want that circus. I mean, that's such a Miami Dolphins pick. Just the circus.
I don't care about the circus. Give me Jameis Winston. Give me the quarterback with the it intangible. What are we talking about with Ryan Tannehill? We're missing the it.
Oh, yeah. Jameis Winston is
Jameis
got a lot
Winston oozes
Ryan
it.
Tannehill doesn't have.
Yeah, he oozes it.
Oh. Where does the it ooze from?
I don't know. From his crabs.
Oh, okay. And next question. Fins Up asks, is Jarvis Landry the new Blanky? Seems like he has good chemistry with Tannehill, and he's just a great NFL player.
Jarvis Landry is on pace to catch 71 passes for 655 yards. He's right now got 5 touchdowns. He's two behind Mike Wallace. His average is not high in terms of 9.2 yards per catch, but a lot of his passes are like running plays. And what does he do? He produces yards after catch. He's gotten like 300 yards run after catch. That's a ridiculous amount. And I remember we talked this show, and I did a statistical study a month ago. And when I did that statistical study, I looked at who was producing what and how. And when I noticed Jarvis Landry had like 200 of his 300 yards after the catch. I was like, damn, this kid needs to get the ball more. And I'm glad to see that he's progressed to the primary receiver. I think he's going to finish the year as the #1 receiver on this team.
It certainly looks like it. And what an incredible year for rookie wide receivers.
Absolutely.
You talk about up until this year, the NFL has been, you can't expect too much from rookie wide receivers. They need time to get just the chemistry down with the quarterbacks. But Mike Evans with the Buccaneers, Odell Beckham with the Giants, Jarvis Landry with the Dolphins, Sammy Watkins with the Bills. Jordan Matthews with the Eagles. These are great NFL players. John Brown in Arizona.
Yeah.
Those are awesome.
I don't play fantasy football, so I don't know all the names.
How about just knowing the NFL? That's kind of not your job either.
I pay attention to who the Dolphins' opponent is, who their division is. Everything else is.
You're a coach. You sound like a coach.
Listen, I think that this is the year, like the '83 quarterbacks, or Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees. I forget the year where there's another quarterback year, Eli Manning's year. This is the year of the wide receiver, and it's commendable that they're doing a good job. Wish the Dolphins would have more Jarvis Landrys on their team, because they'd probably be a better team if they did.
Dolphins offense continues to evolve. Are we expecting it to look any different here over the next 5 weeks? What are we expecting to see?
You know what I wish the Dolphins would do offensively?
Earl Mitchell as a fullback.
That's good.
Right.
Hey, they're working on Deion Jordan as a tight end, so hey, maybe we can inspire that. You know what? I think there's more meat on the bone with Lamar Miller, and I know he's injured. I know he's battling shoulder injury, and then he had a knee flare-up in practice last week. But Lamar Miller is presently on pace to rush for 979 rushing yards on 12.4 carries per game. He's got one of the highest rushing averages in the entire NFL, and this isn't like a guy who's just used sparingly.
Right.
He's going to carry the ball 200 times and nearly 5 yards a carry. You should feed him more.
Yeah.
You should feed him more carries. 15 should be the goal. Why do you always have to rotate him?
It's frustrating watching, just seeing a different number back there. So just give him the ball.
Also, pass the ball to him. What is the point of, in the final month of the season, what's the point of rationing him out?
Right.
Let's see what this guy can do. Because ultimately, next year, he's going to be in the final year of his contract. You've got to poop or get off the pot with Lamar Miller. You better know what he is.
So we had this question a couple weeks ago. So if we're getting the ball more to Jarvis Landry and we're getting the ball more to Lamar Miller, who are we getting the ball less to? Because it can't be Brian Hartline. He's not getting the ball anyway.
Especially with Charles Clay injured right now, I think you probably put the tight ends on the back burners. I would love to see Mike Wallace run more deep routes. I don't need him to be a possession receiver.
Right.
Space the field, give me some big plays, give me some broken plays on scramble ball plays, rolling Ryan Tannehill left and right. But, to me, I think if you want to become the team that you have the potential to become, Lamar Miller has to have a heavier load.
Okay. Dolphins are battling a couple of injuries. They've thinned out some units. It was rough there at the end of the Broncos game. How should Miami address the shoulder injuries of Juwan James and Jamar Taylor?
Juwan James told me he's fine. Told me that they held him out from a strength standpoint. That's probably, precautionary reasons. He's going to face a tough challenge against the Jets. They've got a very forceful defensive line. I think he's going to be playing. If he doesn't play, would love to see Billy Turner get an opportunity. But in terms of Jamar Taylor also, he suffered a shoulder injury, and his status is day-to-day. More than likely, he's probably not going to play against the Jets, which means you better hope that Cortland Finnegan comes back from his ankle injury. He's been shelved for 2 weeks. Cortland is a tough guy. He's smart. He's heady. He knows his team needs him right now. Even if he's coming back a week earlier than he should, he knows this is the time that you've got to step up and be a leader, and you got to play through some of that pain.
Questions about those two guys. Is Jamar Taylor starting cornerback on this team next year?
Oh, yes.
It's Finnegan, because Finnegan's not coming back, right?
I think Finnegan might come back. He's
Okay.
on the books for $5 million. It depends on how comfortable the Dolphins feel. They could probably extend it. They could probably restructure it. But I think Jamar Taylor is proven, it's only been 2 games, but he's proven that you want to invest in him a little bit more.
And right now, through however many weeks we are at, we're at 11. Through 11 weeks, Dolphins Rookie of the Year, Juwan James or Jarvis Landry?
Juwan James.
Okay.
I mean, he was already an upper echelon right tackle, was forced to move to left tackle, who people will argue is the second most important position in the entire game. I like what Jarvis Landry does. I like what he represents, but he hasn't had a tougher workload than Juwan James. Look at the people that he's faced. Look at the people: DeMarcus Ware, Mario Williams, Ansah, Dwight Freeney, Chicago. I forget what is his name. I forget the kid, the guy in Minnesota. But I mean, every week,
Right.
Jarvis Landry's done well, but Juwan James is taking the tougher workload of anybody on that team.
Ball watchers would say Jarvis Landry.
Yeah.
All right.
Always the ball watchers.
At MendyU770 wants to know, would it be worth it for the Finns to try to get safety Walt Aikens involved at cornerback? He's not getting on the field as safety.
I don't think they have a choice right now.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you're Lowell Rose, Jaleel Brown. If Cortland Finnegan and Jamar Taylor cannot play, you're going to have to play Walt Aikens at safety.
Right.
At cornerback, the only issue I have with Walt Aikens is he's very stiff in the hips, which makes him more of an ideal cornerback. But for some of the bigger wide receivers, I think it shouldn't be that much of an issue for him. He's a physical player. Maybe he could help you press a little bit more. I don't think his future's at cornerback, but if you need to play him there for a game or two, certainly go for it.
All right. There was a lot of concerns about Dallas Thomas serving as the starting right tackle once Brandon Albert suffered a season-ending knee injury. How'd you feel he played?
I think he played probably his best game against Denver, but there were a lot of circumstances in terms of some injuries that sort of factored in, and I don't want to say, oh, he played great, but he wasn't really playing against anybody, because here's what Dallas Thomas is. He's good against the run. He will give you a line surge, especially playing with Mike Pouncey. That's the reason why the Dolphins are averaging 4.7 yards per carry, which is very impressive total. However, as a pass blocker, there are just 5 to 7 snaps in a game where he just completely whiffs. And he's not even close to the defender. His defender's in Ryan Tannehill's face. A lot of times, those can lead to some very ugly plays. Fortunately for the Dolphins against Denver, there were 4 instances, and Ryan Tannehill completed passes in all 4 of those instances.
Wow.
Which, I'm talking about where the defender's like right in his face, and somehow he made it happen. And I'm interested to see if Dallas Thomas can improve with continued practice as a right tackle. At one point last season, when his rookie year, they didn't play him as a guard. They had played Sam Brenner as a guard because they believed that his future was at right tackle, and that's where he was working at. Now we're going to see. We're going to figure out whether or not this guy's a guard or he's a tackle. But he's proven he can get the job done.
I mean, the Dolphins' offensive line has proven that they can kind of get the job done with these guys coming in and out and moving around. Overall, it's been incredible how well it's been.
I would tell you, I was thoroughly impressed with how Jason Fox played. I mean, at one point early in the season, I told you Jason Fox was the 53rd man on the roster. He was probably going to be cut at any point if they needed a position. And the former University of Miami guy stepped in for Jawan James when he went down, and he stonewalled everybody. He wasn't an issue. He wasn't a problem. Commendable. Props to you, Jason Fox.
All right. Well, despite the Jets' record, Monday night's game should be another interesting chapter in this heated division rivalry.
You know, since 2009, that was the last time that the Dolphins swept that series. So every game since then has been win one, lose one, win one, lose one, and usually the road team wins that game.
Well, Rex Ryan would love to spoil Miami's season, and
like they did last year.
Might happen if Miami does not sweep the Jets. What is the biggest challenge the Jets present for Miami? Is there a challenge that they present?
I think the run
Miami?
game. I mean, especially the game that you're coming off where you allow 201
Right.
rushing yards. I think that you have to be able to make the Jets one-dimensional. It looks like Michael Vick is injured. Geno Smith is going to start. Woohoo! That's great
Either
for
one
the
of them, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're not very good. However, at this point, the Jets, what do they have to play for? Spoiling the Dolphins' season.
Right, and saving their head coach.
They can't save their head coach
Okay.
anymore.
Well-
And Rex is a dead man walking. He probably knows he's a dead man walking. The question is, can they do enough to play spoiler? And if we're not going to have a good season, might as well ruin the Dolphins season.
Well, the fact that they didn't show up Monday night against the Bills is not a good sign for Jets fans that they're going to make this thing interesting down the stretch.
True.
Because the Bills have a great defense, but so do the Dolphins.
I mean, but it's the hated rivalry. You know, a lot of you throw in those
I think
rivalry
the Jets
games,
and Bills love each other. I don't think that's a
but they
love.
don't care. About
Okay.
they don't care about the Bills.
All right.
They just look at upstate New York and just like, you're the armpit of New York.
From
They
someone
are.
who went to Syracuse. It's fine. Okay. Let's. We're gonna get to prediction time. Actually, let's get some of our quick. What do we
Rapid
call these
fires.
things? Rapid fires. Will Dolphins throw more deep balls against the Jets secondary?
Nope.
Okay, that's an easy one. Do we finally see a completed long pass against the Jets on Monday Night Football?
Nope. Well, you know what? Let me back off because the Jets, if there is one area where they're horrible, it's their cornerbacks.
Right.
I'm shocked that Rex Ryan couldn't find a quarterback that can salvage that season. So maybe, I would love to see the Dolphins use Mike Wallace more in the slot, move him around a little bit more, and try to create confusion. The one thing that the Jets are going to do is they're going to be aggressive, they're going to be attacking, they're going to leave their cornerbacks one-on-one on an island, and it's going to present you opportunities to produce big plays. I'm not so obsessed about the deep ball. I've given up on the deep ball.
Right.
I'm more comfortable with getting the ball 15 to 17 yards down the field and having those receivers produce you a little bit more run after catch. I'm more focused on putting the ball in position for a receiver to catch it in stride and give you extra yards. And until you start to do that as an offense, you're not going to get to the next level. I'm okay with the fact that I don't believe in throwing the ball deep just to waste plays and space the field. So I'm okay with not throwing it downfield to Mike Wallace.
All right, it is prediction time. We both got last week's prediction right. Going with the Broncos. How do you see this game playing out?
You know what? I don't think the Dolphins, I've covered this team for 8 years, and I don't think they've ever been challenged in MetLife Stadium. I don't think they've ever had an issue where they weren't playing that great or the conditions or the elements were a factor. So I do believe that the Dolphins are going to go up there, and they're going to make a statement game. I'm going to predict a 30-17 victory for the Miami Dolphins.
I mean, this is not only is this the worst Rex Ryan team that he's had. I mean,
by
this
far.
is one of the better Dolphins teams in recent years.
Yes.
So this has got blowout written all over it. Dolphins have everything to play for. Jets have nothing to play for. Jets coming off a huge loss. The Dolphins coming off a very difficult loss to swallow. This is going to be a blowout. 35-7, Dolphins win big.
And I agree with you from this standpoint. If you look at this defensive line and how they got embarrassed and that loss against Denver is on their shoulders, I have to think that this is going to be a game where they're going to choke out the Jets' run game.
I know. I don't know what the Jets can do offensively. I don't think they can do anything. I'll tell you what, though. Fins fans, you're just watching games on Thursday and Sunday. You got Monday to wait. you got to watch what's going on in the AFC North because it's getting a little dangerous right now. We've been saying 10 wins is going to be enough, but all those teams have 7 wins right now.
Yes.
So you've got, and so do the Chiefs.
You know what? I recently just put up a blog entry which basically looked at everybody's opponent who's still in the mix for that playoff hunt, and I still say 10 wins is gonna do it.
I've gone through and I've predicted every game too, and right now I've got the Chiefs at 10 wins, the Steelers at 10 wins, the Chiefs at 10 wins, and the Dolphins are at 10 wins. If all that
You mean
happens,
Chargers at 10 wins?
No,
you
no.
said Chiefs twice. So Chiefs,
no.
Chargers.
No, I don't have the Chargers at 10 wins.
Oh, it's Chiefs,
Steelers, Bengals.
Bengals get in because they've got the
Right.
tiebreaker. And what about the Ravens?
No, I don't have the Ravens at 10 wins.
Okay, so
because
yeah.
I have them coming to Sun Life and losing.
No matter how you slice it, if this Dolphins team gets to 10 with or without the playoffs, that's a successful season. So we'll see. The goal should be 10 wins. 9 is a little bit more realistic, and that's still a successful season. It's just not good enough.
Would you rather have 10 wins and miss the playoffs or have 9 wins and make the playoffs?
I just want to make the playoffs. I don't care.
That's right. So you can't say 10 wins is the most important thing.
10 wins shows that you do what it took. You finished your season winning 4 or 5, beating tough opponents, whether it be Baltimore or the New England, and took care of business against the Jets and Minnesota.
And 10 wins means Philbin's back.
9 wins means Philbin's
9
back.
wins. All right.
I think. That's my guess. That's
That's-
progress. Didn't you ask for progress, Steve Ross?
That's it for X's Omar. We're here live every Wednesday at 12:15, breaking down your Dolphins. You can find the replay of the show on sunsentinel.com. If you're looking for more Dolphins news, you can find Omar Kelly's First and 10 with Dolphins nickel cornerback Jimmy Wilson on the sunsentinel.com sports pages. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next week.